The Second Epistle of John, Walking in Truth and Love, Lesson 2. Introduction. 1. In his greeting to the elected lady and her children, John wrote that the grace, mercy, and love which proceeds from the Father and the Son is in the sphere of truth and love, 2 John 3. 2. In verses 4 through 6, he expands upon the theme of truth and love, doing so in the form of a commendation for walking in truth, b. an exhortation to love one another. 3. In this study, let's examine this commendation and exhortation, seeking to glean whatever principles or lessons that we can from this passage. Commendation for walking in truth. A. I rejoice greatly. 1. Either by visiting or by receiving a report from others, John came to know that some of the elect ladies' children were walking in truth. 2. This was a source of great joy to John, just as it was when he heard the same thing about Genas. 3 John 3. 3. As expressed to Genas, there was no greater joy than hearing about others walking in truth. 3 John 4. 4. What about the joy of hearing someone obeying the gospel? A. As great as that might be, there is always the possibility that one will not carry through with their initial obedience to Christ. B. That realization can temper one's joy. C. But when time reveals that the person continues to walk in truth, that removes the question of whether one will carry through with their obedience to Christ. 5. Thus, a great source of joy in the Christian faith can be in the follow-up of new converts, as well as in the evangelization of the lost. B. I have found some of your children. 1. Unfortunately, John could not say all, but only some. 2. This reminds us that even the best of parents may have erring children. A. Despite the fact that this mother was so special, she was called the elect lady. B. Like Samuel, the prophet of God, she had some children who were not faithful to the Lord. 1 Samuel 8, verses 1 through 3. 3. Whose fault is this? A. Some might say that in view of Proverbs 22 verse 6, an error earning children is always the parent's fault. B. However, such a view of Proverbs 22 verse 6 suggests a belief in environmental predestination. 1. That if the parent provides the proper environment in raising the child, there is no choice for the child but to turn out a certain way. 2. This would strip the child of any personal responsibility and lay the blame solely upon the parent. 3. While the parent will bear some responsibility if no effort is made to restrain the child in his sin, the ultimate responsibility is the child. 1 Samuel 3 verses 11 through 13 and Ezekiel 18 verse 20. C. There is another view of Proverbs 22 verse 6. 1. The literal rendering is train up a child according to his own way. 2. According to his own temperament, aptitude. 3. If he is mechanically inclined, don't try to make him an office worker. 4. This view recognizes that this verse, like much of Proverbs, is given particular advice on the raising of children, and to realize that children are different and should be raised according to their particular disposition and skill. 5. Failure to recognize this result in a child being forced to become something he is not, and he will not likely remain in it. 4. The fact remains that despite the best parenting, some children simply choose to rebel against God. C. Walking in truth, as we have received commandment from the Father. 1. This expressed the idea of living in harmony with the truth found in God's Word. 2. Everything one does demonstrates a life that is governed by God's commandments. 3. This is legalism. No, it is what it means to truly love God. 1 John 5 verse 3, John 14 verse 15, chapter 15, verse 14. So with great joy in his heart, John commands the elected lady and her children for their walking in the truth. But an emphasis on walking in truth without an equal emphasis on loving one another can easily develop a harsh, impatient, and insensitive disposition toward others, just as knowledge without love precedes ignorance. 1 Corinthians 8, verse 1. Exhortation to love one another. A. And now I plead with you, lady. 1. The tone of John's entreating suggests the seriousness of this exhortation. 2. Certainly John stressed in his first epistle the importance of this command to love one another. 1 John 2, verse 10, 3, verse 14, chapter 4, verses 20 through 21. 3. Therefore, this is a commandment not to be taken lightly. B. Not as though I wrote a new commandment. 1. The commandment is not a new one. A. It did not originate from John. B. It is one which his readers had known since the beginning of their Christian experience. 1 John 2, verse 7, chapter 3, verse 11. 2. This is a commandment given by Jesus himself. John 13, verses 34 through 35. Chapter 15, verse 17. C. That we love one another. 1. The commandment given by Jesus is to love another. 2. Especially according to the standard of love laid down by Jesus, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. John 13, verse 34. D. This is love, that we walk according to his commandments. 1. Here we learn that best demonstrates that we truly love one another. 2. When I am keeping the commandments of God, I demonstrate true love for my brethren. 1 John 5, verse 2. 3. I can claim brotherly love all day long, but unless I am walking according to God's commandments, my claim is meaningless. E. This is the commandment, you should walk in it. 1. This sentence is simply reinforcing what John has been saying. A. The command to love is one we have had from the beginning. B. We should therefore keep this commandment by walking in love. 2. Such repetition is often necessary. A. For there is always a tendency to hear and not obey. B. The 3 R's of learning is repetition, repetition, repetition. Conclusion. 1. With joy in his heart, John commands, with a pleading voice he exhorts. A. He commands them to walk in truth. B. He exhorts them to walk in love. 2. There is ever a tendency to do one without the other. A. Some hold to the truth, but do so without love. This breeds harshness. B. Others are quick to display love, but neglect the truth. This produces compromise. 3. Both are wrong, and there is only one alternative: to walk in the truth and to walk in love. May God help us always to do both faithfully. The second epistle of John, Walking in Truth and Love, Lesson 2, the end.